Hello, you're listening to Over the Oxer podcast with Tracy Cole for all things to do with the mind for equestrians. This week, the podcast goes back to riding confidence, so back to the traditional style of topics. So I want to talk today a little bit about two things about the subconscious or unconscious mind that will give you a few hints and tips about how to ride more confidently, and then a big tip at the end that will be something that you can put into practice right away. So when we think about confidence, we can think of it as an emotional state, but we also kind of think of it as a state that we almost have to wait for, that you have to earn, that you have to have a certain level of experience to get to achieve in its full form. Whereas confidence really is both physical and psychological, and it's more like a feedback loop. I'm doing okay, or I'm doing great, I'm doing great. And today what I want to do is just take a little look under the bonnet, if you like, at two ways that your unconscious mind might be working against you, without your permission, because it's probably doing the opposite to what you want it to do. And then we'll move on to that one practical way that you can change that, and you can start today. So, two truths that you might not realize, or it might be good to recap. The first one is the don't think of a pink elephant glitch. Okay, so did you think of a pink elephant? And then did you try and scrap it? So the unconscious mind works quickly, far, far more quickly than the conscious mind. That's one thing to note. So your immediate response is the unconscious one. At the same time, the unconscious mind doesn't understand the word not or don't. So it just takes it out of the sentence. So instead of hearing don't think of a pink elephant, the unconscious mind hears think of a pink elephant, and it does it. The conscious mind, however, does understand don't, and it comes in a little bit slower, and it says, oh, hang on, no, the command was don't think of a pink elephant, and so it tries to get rid of it out of your mind. Now, what we want really very often when we're riding is an instantaneous response in the right direction. So if we were to tell ourselves, don't look at the ditch, don't look down, then first of all, your brain has to kind of get a concept of the ditch or concept of the fall, and then process it, which might include feelings as well as visuals. And then your conscious mind has got to try and get rid of it. So we often say these things, don't we, when we're riding? Don't tense up, don't let him spook, don't let him look at the cows. Whatever we are saying, though, in that way, with that don't, or using not, then you're literally feeding your unconscious mind the precise thing that you don't want. And your muscles will micro-contract in response to that. So you might not even realize that you've tensed because it's so automatic, it's so quick. Now, those micro-tonal changes in wherever it might be in your body, maybe it's in your hands and therefore it goes down your reins, or in your seat, or in your thighs, then it does bring about the very thing that you want to avoid. So it's this horrible loop going round and round. Okay, the second thing that I'm going to tell you about the mind is a part of the unconscious called the reticular activating system. So this is a bit like a search engine in our brain. But just like a search engine, if you never type anything into a search engine, it doesn't kind of search for stuff on its own. You have to have some input. So for us, our unconscious mind is bombarded with zillions of pieces of data all the time. And to keep you sane, it filters out everything apart from what you tell it is vital. And so that's the search engine, that's the reticular activating system, and it's based on your dominating thoughts. So whatever occupies your mind most, that's what it will kind of try to get for you, if you like. So let's say your internal narrative is something like, but what if she spooks at the tractor? Then basically what you've done in your search engine is typed in tractor danger. So your brain then will ignore the fact that your horse is quite relaxed, you've got a nice rhythmical walk, there's no wind, it's a beautiful day, there's no cars. It will simply think about and hyper focus on anything that is kind of indicative of a tractor coming. So it could be birds moving around in the hedge. It could be maybe a car coming along and braking, or, maybe a sound in the distance, but it's that hyper focus that makes you hyper vigilant, which makes your horse hyper vigilant. So we have to watch what we feed our mind, because it will use that for our search engine. So in other words, putting these things together in a way is to have this practical tip. And instead of vague positive thinking, because again, what tends to happen to us is that we think negatively, first of all, and we often then prime our mind with that negative. The best thing to do, rather than, saying, think positive, is to give your unconscious mind a job to do. So imagine this was a new rule for you, that you can't leave your unconscious mind in a vacuum. You can't tell it what not to do, or leave it alone because it will scan for danger. You have to give it some kind of physical, active directive. So what can we do? Well, you can do this from the start. It works best if you can do it from the start of your ride. But if you forget to do it, you can always start to do it as soon as you start to feel the very, very first surge of nerves, or you catch yourself thinking something negative, like don't get nervous, don't think about the size of the jump, don't let her run out. Instead, the formula would be, I want. Okay? So when you think about what you do want, make it physical, make it sensory specific, something you can see or hear or feel right now. So if you think just be positive, that's far too vague, and your brain will reject it and it will override it with something negative. So what you could do, you could say to yourself, I want to feel equal weight in both stirrups, and I'm going to count the rhythm of the stride. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so equal weight in both stirrups, rhythm of the stride. Okay. Now, why would this work? Well, the brain can't actually focus easily on two tasks at once, especially if they're new tasks. So by forcing your mind to calculate a specific physical sensation or rhythm, you're hijacking the reticular activating system. Okay. So we've given you two things to do, just so that hopefully you can do one at least, if not two at the same time, but definitely not the third one, which is the negative priming of the reticular activating system. So you take the search engine away from tracking any danger, in inverted commas, and put it on to working on something like rhythm or weight in your stirrups. And then what happens is that you find that your body starts to relax. So let me know how it goes. Nice and easy, equal weight in both stirrups. And I don't mean force your weight down into your stirrups, but just how much weight is going through to your feet. And it may be in grams, it may not be in kilograms. And then just that rhythm, 1, 2, 1, 2. So confidence isn't some magical trait that some riders have and the rest of us don't. It's simply the result of running the right software at the right time, stopping telling your brain what to avoid and giving it a tactical job to do that's also quite useful. And just watch when you try it, how quickly your body follows, but also how quickly your horse follows suit. Let me know how it all goes, and take care, and I will see you again really soon.